Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Life with Brandon. How's everyone doing?
Pretty good,
Hope
pretty
every
good.
good. I hope everyone has had an amazing week. Hope it's been great. It's been productive. And y'all know what? It is the end of October.
Yes, it is.
Sunday will be November the 1st. Like, wow, the year is literally over with. Can you believe that? Like, wow, I still have a memory of March, and here it is, November, for to be November, and time fall back this weekend.
Yeah.
Like, wow, oh my goodness. Well, you all know this month been month October, and I've been focusing on, I've been doing interviews on people dealing with breast cancer and survivor, and so we took the last Wednesday of this month because voting is coming up next Tuesday. It's the election, November the 3rd, and so today we have state senator candidate Benjamin Brooks with us. So before we go into the meat of our show today and talk about our subject, me and him gonna have a little bit of conversation. You all get to introduce him, and then you all get to see a little bit behind the scenes about what's going on in his life, how was his weekend. And today's topic is very important. I think we as a race, we lack education and knowledge on voting and politics. We was never really taught what is politics, what is voting, the power that we actually have when we vote. So today's topic is, how do our community view politics and what purpose does it serve for us? And that's very important because essentially politics plans the future. And if you don't have the right people in place, your future may not be as bright as it could be because people like us or people that don't recognize our issue or understand our issue are not at the table. So being there is not at the table, they can't speak on behalf of us. And at the end of the day, no matter a relationship, whoever you get, if a person don't have experience where you come from, they can never be able to help put things in place to help benefit your community when no one from your community is at the table. And so I think we've been overlooked far too long, and we're trying to get the right people at the right table to have this conversation and to fight on our behalf and to make changes. So, state Senate, state Senate candidate. Okay, I gotta make sure I said it right. State Senate candidate Bruce. How was your weekend? What you do? How was your week? Tell us about it. I know busy campaigning, but I'd rather hear from you. How is
We're down to the last days before election, so it's really kind of making the push to reach out to voters and get the message to them to let them understand that they have a choice. I think I've in the last couple of days I've probably sent out about 12,000 or so text messages, trying to dig into the district, to at least let people understand that they have an option. And that is
it?
important in terms of politics to understand that you have an option, and that to be able to be informed about who those candidates and options are. So I've really been pressing that, doing a little bit of research. Again, I'm a paralegal for 20 years. So I've been doing some research and looking at some laws, um, on Facebook, a couple of groups, just expressing some, concern over some issues, and letting people know in the district also, especially like in Clayton County, there's some issues with, um, landlords that are not keeping up their properties, and so
Okay.
people find themselves in difficult situations, and they go to court, and there's no relief for them. That's something that I most certainly will be working hard to turn around, to protect renters, and also to protect property owners as well, because there's a balance. People get mad and want to destroy somebody's property, and I don't think that's fair, either. So, there's a balance to the whole situation. If you're going to rent a property, make sure it's in good working and healthy environment, and people are not living in mold and paying rent for that.
And paying rent from that. Okay, great. I'm definitely looking forward to getting into the story and hearing what your viewpoints are and what do you plan on doing when elected for state senate. Now, my weekend, you all, it was fun. What did I do this weekend? It go by so fast. I mixed work in with trying to clean up and trying to enjoy, and it went by fast. Sunday we had dinner with my aunts, and it turned into a family counseling session, which was really good. We was able to have a conversation about just life and things that we've been through and how to overcome it and how to move past it. I find out a lot of people are stuck, and sometimes they don't even know they're stuck just by having conversations. So that was real good. Dinner started at 2 o'clock, and we watched the game, and of course, all them Falcons, they hurt my heart. They just hurt my heart this weekend. They did. I was like, no, you did not do that. But having that dinner conversation, and we ended up leaving at 8 o'clock. So from 2 to 8, and we didn't even know it was that late. So they just see how much of the conversation that we had, and we enjoyed each other, and it was a conversation that was needed. And so I feel like sometimes my show Life with Brandon is on the air and off the air as well. So, but it was good. It was good having a great conversation. And then this week, just preparing to interview with you. And I want to say thank you, first of all. Let me just say thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the show and do it live with us. In pre production, I think we had a great pre production meeting. You like to educate, and that's what I love about you. You educate. I learned a lot from you just hearing your stance and what it is. Because not only when you speak, you not only just tell somebody, but you also educate them on what it is. And I think that's been the most lacking thing in our community is we've been told a lot of things, but we never really knew what they are or were. So you come in and explain like this is what happens, this is how this goes, and now I have a better understanding myself just dealing with politics. So I want to say thank you for doing that. And I always tell my viewers, Life of Brandon, I don't have the answer. That's why we have this conversation. I learned too, just as well as the viewers. So I want to say thank you for joining us today and sharing your thoughts, and I also hope it gets you some more viewers, some more votes in, so people can understand just where you're coming from, and not just he's just another person trying to get votes. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it. It's a great opportunity. So you're extending the voice, so that people can hear what's going on, and you're doing your part. And if more people did their part like that, people will be more informed. They'll have access to more information. So you should definitely pat yourself on the shoulder for taking your time out to do this. Because it is a responsibility. So definitely, I thank you for opening up the opportunity.
No problem, no problem. So you all just give a brief backlog. Mr. Benjamin, I'm calling Mr. Benjamin right now because I'm giving a brief introduction. Mr.
Whatever you want to say.
Benjamin.
First candidate Brooks, whatever.
Um, he is the father of two boys and two stepchildren. He's a husband. Y'all, he's a husband. The man is taken, y'all. Just remember that. He's a husband. His career experience having included working as a realtor, paralegal, business owner, and founder of a nonprofit organization. Incumbent Gail Davenport and Benjamin Brooks are running in the general election for the Georgia State Senate District number 44. So if you are in District 44, this is your man. He covers Clayton and DeKalb, correct? District 44, which covers Clayton and DeKalb. So on November 3rd, after hearing what candidate state Senate Benjamin Brooks has to say, if he wins you over tonight, feel free to cast your vote on November 3rd. Just realize November 3rd is next week. So if you had not made a decision, we all need to be trying to make that decision to head to the polls. Depending on what county, I don't think early voting is open this weekend. I'm not sure. It is
early voting is open. It's still okay. It's on to the 30th.
Okay, it's not out of okay. Cool. So early voting is still open. Hey, go cast some votes. Go in. get the men standing in line. Hey, it is well worth it. We got a few viewers I want to give a shout out to before we go on the show. Hey, Miss Tiffany Herndon. She says District 44. Hey, Erica, thanks for watching. She said hi, Mr. Brooks.
Hello.
And it's just thanks everybody for watching. So the title, you all, for today's show is.
All right, Brandon. Before you go on, Brandon, you missed my 5 grandkids.
Oh my
You
goodness,
missed
the 5
missed my
grandkids.
5 babies.
I'm sorry.
Don't miss my 5 babies.
I'm sorry. You all, he got 5 grandkids, the grandbabies. We gotta have the grandbabies. Yes.
You gotta have the grandbabies.
I am so sorry, the grandbabies. Yes, shout out to the grandbabies. Yes, that's who's still the heart, the grandbabies. The kids
Absolutely.
don't have the heart anymore, it's the grandbabies.
Definitely.
Yes. Yes, he's definitely a family man. I love that. Yes. Oh my goodness. How do our community view politics? That is powerful. How do our community view politics? Oh my goodness. And what purpose does it serve for us? Now, a lot of people don't know. Hey, Tiffany, Tiffany says, shout out to the grandkids. Yes.
That's
Tiffany
right,
know how important them grandkids.
Absolutely.
And she also said, hi, Mr. Bruce, and hi, Tiffany. Yes.
How y'all
Make it
doing?
happen, people. She's
Absolutely.
put out there making it happen. Yes, people go and vote. Yes. But you know, a lot of people don't realize he is a Republican. And I feel like I think that has been the biggest line of our community. We have a lot of Democrat and Republican come as a major divide into the community. And just because I vote differently doesn't necessarily mean I don't have the same views and know what we fix in our community. I think that's kind of been the biggest thing. So we're here today to have that conversation. Let's talk about it, be about educate. Because even the Bible said my people perish because of lack of knowledge.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's talk about it. All right, let's get into it. First of all, what is a state senator? Because most people don't even know what a state senator is. What is a state senator?
Well, your state senator is, you have the House and the Senate. So
Okay.
it's a check and balance on the legislative branch. All right.
Okay.
So it's one of the most important seats because they're the ones that really kind of push the legislation, and they balance out anything that also comes out of the House. So it goes through the Senate to the House, or the House to the Senate, depending on who sponsored the bill. Your senator is supposed to represent your interests, the interests of the community. While I would represent the interests of District 44, also as a member of the General Assembly, I would also be representing the interests of the state of Georgia as well, because there's policy that will be written that affects everyone. And then there's policy that can be written that affects just pretty much issues that affect in that district. So you can kind of micro target legislation that really impacts on the granular level in your community. So you're the representative for your district. You're the voice. You're the one that speaks and goes to the legislature and say, listen, this is what is affecting my people in District 44. These are some concerns. These are our concerns because it's a shared value. There's shared value in terms of, what affects us. And I think also that that affect that kind of some people kind of get lost in that, excuse me, in that aspect of it, because not everybody in the community shares the same values, the same attitudes, the same beliefs. So yes, your state senator represents you at the General Assembly, which is the capital, and speaks on your behalf and protects your interests.
And protects your interests.
Well, at least that's what they're supposed to do. I don't know if that's
supposed to do, right? So in layman terms, when somebody says, what does the state senator do? Basically, it is working for the people and making sure their voice get heard. So say if there's a bill on the floor, and this bill here doesn't benefit my people in District 44. This is where you come in and say, no, I vote against it. No, that doesn't represent my district because of XYZ. This doesn't work for African American communities. This doesn't work because now you're being disproportionate. Whatever the issue of it may be, is that where you come in and say, no, this bill doesn't work because it affects these people here. and other senators that are represented in other districts would do the same, saying it doesn't benefit my district. So no, we need to revisit this bill, break it down, or put in suggestions. How does that process usually works?
Well, that sounds like it should work that way. But
Okay.
what happens typically is the party politics come into it, and it become an issue of whether Democrats want Republicans or Republicans don't want Democrats to pass something or get the credit for it. It becomes like a sandbox issue sometimes, instead of it being a straightforward issue like that. And if you're not a strong candidate, then you're going to be influenced by your party's politics. And it may be something that may negatively affect your community, but because you're not independent and you can't speak independently, you're not going to vote in favor of your community. You're going to vote in favor of whatever the policy is that's put forward. So for me, when the bills are put forth, then my deal is to communicate with my voters. This is what's
Okay.
on the table. Most people never get the information to know what bills are on the table.
What bills on the table?
So you
Mm.
don't really hear that. What I'm suggesting in terms of my candidacy is to create a different candidacy and a different model to make sure that anyone that comes behind me understands that they're accountable to the people. That first of all, you need to have an agenda. You're not going to just
Okay.
tell us on ideas.
Okay.
Anybody can have ideas, but you're going to know that these are the things that affect us in our community. This is our agenda. This is where we are with these things, whether they've been passed, they've been tabled, it's been something that's been pushed for years. These are the things that are important to us, and we need to know that you're going to push those things and stand for those things. For me, I'm going to develop where my constituents have open access to me, almost like a Facebook kind of forum. So I can
Okay.
share what's going on. We can discuss the issues, and it may be something that I support. And I may say, hey, you know what? This is a good bill or whatever, and I support it. But when I shoot it out to my candidate, to my constituents, it's a starting point. Because
Okay.
while I may support it, I'm sending it to them to say, listen, this is on the floor. This is what's going on. How do you feel about it?
How do you feel about
I want my people to be responsive, to be informed,
it? To
to
be
know
informed.
that this is what's happening. How do you feel about this? This is to educate them on the mechanics of how this is going to impact your life.
Okay.
All right?
All
Because
right.
when people go to the ballots this time, there's going to be some constitutional amendments on the ballot, and it's going to be a safety net.
Yes.
But
I
how do you know
noticed.
how that works?
Gotcha. Okay. Good. Good. Good point. One of our viewers posted a question in the chat. They said, in order to come in and implement change, you have to know what works and what doesn't. With that being said, what do you currently see that if elected you would change? I know
You
we
talking
said
about
one thing about your housing.
legislatively or how things operate in the Senate? So what question is this?
Let's see. Just for now, I would say legislative. I would say
Okay,
legislative until they respond back.
okay. So legislatively, I'm looking at one of the items is returning control to parents in terms of education and deciding what curriculums they have in their schools. Right now, parents don't decide that. It's decided by the state education, Department of Education, and the federal Department of Education. So somebody else
Okay.
determines what your kids will learn.
We're
We don't
learning
get
in
enough
school.
Black history in our schools. It's being whitewashed. So you don't have an
Yeah.
opportunity to decide, well, I want my kid to learn this, or I don't want my kid to learn that. I want to return power and control back to the parents that they can decide what curriculum goes in. That's one issue. All right. Another
Okay.
issue is housing discrimination. So we have housing discrimination. You have some people that are released from prison and they can't find housing because of a prior felony. If you go to prison and you do your time, you paid your penalty, you should be
Right.
entitled to a second chance and not have barriers placed in front of you that force you back into a life of crime. Um,
Crime.
so I will be looking at issues in terms of housing discrimination. I will also be looking towards the whole package of criminal justice reform. Part of that is going to also be with background checks. Is people always talking about strengthening background checks? It's as strong as it's going to get. Employers get the information and they determine whether to hire somebody or not.
I'm
But
not.
before anything, we have what you have on the application is asking people the question of whether they have ever been convicted of a felony. Well, most employers exclude them right out the back because they say I don't even want to have the conversation. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you give a person an opportunity to build themselves back up and learn from their mistake when at every turn they're being denied and blocked?
And being
So
denied and blocked. You're
that's
right.
an issue in terms of criminal justice reform. Bail reform is another thing that I'll be looking in that criminal justice package. And that's going to be, should we allow someone back out on our streets that have committed a violent crime in our community? And I'm not just saying because I don't follow this whole violent crime mentality. Uh,
Okay.
Help the non-violent offenders, but do away with violent offenders. That makes no sense. What I'm saying is, I've seen it and other people see it that someone has committed a robbery or a murder and
Mm-hmm.
they're out on bail and they're kicking in somebody else's door or shooting someone else. So we have to look at this. If we're going to have a bail process, because you're just accused of a crime. We're not saying you're guilty.
Right.
You're
You're
accused.
guilty, just accused.
So we can't treat you like you're guilty. So you're accused pending the trial. So we want to know that we're looking at the weight of the evidence that's against the person, the nature of the crime, the individual, who that individual is. Have they had some past offenses? Is this a history for them? Does these offenses line up with some kind of propensity to commit these kind of crimes? What kind of risk are we going to put the community at by letting this person out on bail? What
Mm-hmm.
plan do they have while they're on bail? If they're not working, are you going to be looking for a job, vocational training? What there has to be some kind of something that
In
allows for a
place.
process.
Okay. All right.
Taxes is another issue. I mean,
Go,
we can
bro.
I can run down
You
the
where
line,
that live.
but I'll let somebody else ask a question, and then we can kind of probably touch on those issues as well.
Okay. Symphony, hey Symphony, she also commented, she said, they need to teach financial literacy at a young age, all the way through high school. I definitely think that is another important tool because, especially in our
Absolutely.
community,
So
financial literacy is something
and
we
and
don't
and
have.
and that is again the thing of returning control back to parents to make the determination as to what happens in their school. That is very important
Mm,
because most of the time, and this is just general history, we get out of school and don't know how to fill out a job application, don't know how to fill out a mortgage or loan application. We don't
it's
understand how contracts affect us. There's things we don't know how to open up a bank account, how to balance a book, write a check.
book
All of these things are very important things that your credit report, how does that affect you?
or how to read it. Hmm.
And that's another piece of legislation that I will be looking at in terms of reforming how the credit industry impacts people in terms of purchasing homes, renting homes, um, buying cars, and things like that, because it's so broad that there's a lot of room for discrimination in that whole credit reporting and credit score model.
Before the model. Okay. Now, this next question is more so for I think one of the things that, of course, we've seen it all over the world this year. If any other year, 2020 has really exposed police brutality. We've seen it to me at my worst. To me, I think for me at least, this is the worst that I've actually seen it. Not saying it hadn't always happened, but this is the worst I've seen it. So to those ones that have that no snitch mentality, and also to the ones that don't call the police just simply because they are afraid that I'm the victim, but if I call the police, I'm gonna end up being the accused now, or the one that committed of a crime. So, what would you tell the citizens about police brutality, and how can you affect change within the community?
Well, one of the things is police reform is very important. I mean, some people speak about defunding the police. I don't think that That's really a serious conversation of defunding the police because who's going to protect people that are not comfortable with carrying firearms and using firearms? Most people aren't
Right.
comfortable. So we have to ask ourselves, what is the real issue? The issue is that a lot of times police go unaccounted for when they go out when they step outside of the boundaries of the rules and the law. If they're there to enforce the law, they're also accountable to the laws as well. And what I will be doing is looking at how this how this how this affects. Hold on one second, Brandon. One second.
Okay. All right, y'all. We had to give him a quick minute. Something happened on his end that he needs to take care of. Tiffany, thank you for commenting. Of course, we know how to be in debt with our understanding only, and that is so true, Tiffany. We
I'm back.
definitely know how to be in debt without. We definitely know how to be in debt with our understanding only. We quit to rack up the debt, but we don't definitely know how it processed. All right, welcome back. I was just responding to one of the comments that came through the chat.
All right, sorry about that. I just want to make sure that the background noise wasn't going to drown out our conversation.
All right,
Um,
no problem.
so on the police reform, here's the issue. Like, okay, so about 2 weeks ago, I was at a community meeting, and there
Okay.
was a lawyer. There was a lawyer there. She was an older woman, and we started talking about issues with police. Recently, in Clayton County, there was an officer, a female officer, arrested someone. She handcuffed him, but he was still kind of like resisting. She
Mhm.
took out her gun and stuck it underneath his chin and told him
Mm.
whatever she said to him. Okay, and she wound up getting fired. Victor Hill fired her. But this attorney and this lady, she was an older lady, she was saying, well, what do you do when they're out of control? I said, man, we're not going to condone police officers sticking firearms into someone's throat and telling them to calm down or whatever it is. That is not even a lawful procedure. So what happens if her gun discharged accidentally and killed this man? So we can't have things like that. And as far as the reforms are concerned, I'm looking at training of police officers. I'm looking at
Okay.
accountability for the officers because they have to be properly trained. The immunities that officers receive in terms of um, qualified immunity when they're in
Mhm.
when something happens, I'm looking at that as well. I think it's kind of too broad. We still need to make sure that our officers are protected in terms of that they're not out there afraid to do their job, but they need to
Mhm.
be accountable. They need to understand that if you step outside the
Cross
bounds of
that
the
line.
very laws that you enforce on the citizens, you will be held accountable.
Accountable.
We're not going the time for equivocating. And yes, we do need police officers to support us in our community and to protect us, but we don't need police officers victimizing us. And I don't think that it's every police officer. My father-in-law is a sheriff deputy in Clayton.
Mhm.
He's a very good man. um, and I know there's many other officers throughout the country that are good people and mean and have good intentions. It is the ones that have tried to use government and the cloak of immunity and protection in the government to carry out their racist agendas. And this is how the Ku Klux
The
Klan
Ku
had
Klux.
infiltrated the government back in the days. They got infiltrated the government by being police officers, by being correction officers, by getting in different levels of the government so they can affect policy. And this is where we have to begin to understand the dynamics of this. Now, do you realize that Bloody Sunday was one of this is um, where the John Edison Bridge, the Selma March, where
Okay.
John Lewis became famous, as that event. It was because the police had killed a black guy, Lee Miller. So they were marching there.
Mm.
This was
Okay, so
back
that
then.
was then, right?
This
Okay,
was
I
back
remember, but I
then.
didn't know the name. Okay.
So yeah, his name was
Wow.
Lee Miller. He was killed by police officers. They were like, this can't go on. You had the Black Panthers, which sprung up, and they were like, and from Oakland, because the police were going in black communities, brutalizing people. And they said, wait a minute, we have a right to bear arms like everybody else, and we're going to stop this. See, we go also into the aspect of Second Amendment protections.
Okay.
Well, what's pushed in our community is what? Gun control.
Gun control.
Why is it so that gun control is pushing our community to disarm us? And when we're disarmed and we don't favor our protections, who's going to protect us?
Who's gonna protect us?
So we got to understand how this game is played. We got to understand the dynamics of it. We got to understand the importance of it. And we got to understand that we need to elect people that's going to fight for us.
For us.
That's the key, is fighting.
Yes.
So with as far as police reform, that is a very important piece of legislation that I will focus heavily on.
Okay.
I will make sure to balance it, because I will balance it to make sure that police are held accountable, that they have the proper training, the necessary equipment, and that they're staffed properly. Because most police departments are understaffed,
Understand.
which
That's
affects
true.
their response time. Because if I
Right.
got an officer way across the city and he's covering my neighborhood, but he's 20 miles away, yeah, you can put your lights on, but it's still gonna take time to get to me.
To get there.
So if we have
Response
enough
time and then
officers,
stress levels.
exactly. So once we are able to look at these things, we can help relieve some of the distress on the police department by making sure that they have adequate staff, and they're not working these strenuous hours, sometimes double shifts, and they're under a lot of stress. But my main focus is accountability, to make sure that officers do not have the leverage to abuse and kill citizens. That's just not going to happen under my watch.
Okay. Thank you for that. One I guess commented and said everyone has their own definition of what Black Lives Matter mean. What does it mean to you and why?
Well, what does Black Lives Matter, the movement, what does it really mean? I mean, when
Hmm.
I look at Black Lives Matter and I've gone on their website and I looked at some of the stuff, I have to ask myself, what is the organization really doing? We're
Okay.
marching, we're marching, and they've sat down with Keisha. Was it Keisha Lance Bottom? No, it was Kareem, the
Okay.
last mayor in the city of Atlanta. They
Kasim
sat
Reed.
the
Okay.
podium with Kasim Reed. They sat down with him, but what came of it afterwards? What was the legislatures doing afterwards? I mean, this has been going on for a little while now. Um,
That has been.
it has been going on. So we get the movements that come up like in the 70s, but what happens over time? We begin to say, okay, the issues have died down, or somebody says they're representing some of the issues, and so it just goes away. So if Black Lives Matter is an organization that's going to put forth agendas, and they come to me and say, hey, listen, Senator Brooks, these are some issues that's going on in the community and they're important to us, then of course I'm going to look at those things and figure out how do we work that out in terms of our community. Because every organization that say they're for Black lives aren't for Black lives. I get text messages
I'm
all
for
the
Black
time.
Lives.
I get text messages all the time telling me, hey, support the black vote, support the black vote. And I said, let me click on a couple of these and see where it takes me. This took me to organizations, and I had to tell one of them, I said, you don't have one thing on there that's speaking to a black agenda.
And
So what is your agenda? Because you're saying support the black vote. Why is that? Is it to do what? What agenda are you pushing? Because I
are
look onto your
using the
website,
pressure.
I went to your website and I didn't see any one issue that pertained to black people.
Black people. So the manipulation that they're playing
Well,
on black people as well. The manipulation, the mindset. Because most people like how you went and did that research, they're
they
not gonna
know
go that
that.
far. So say, why
You see
is
support
that?
the black vote,
I'm
we're gonna
going.
say, oh, support the black vote. Yeah, I'm behind it. But really, who's behind it?
Who's behind it and what's in
And
it?
why are they behind it? And these are the things that we have to begin to understand. As a senator, for me, I feel like it's my job to root that out so that my people understand who these people are and whether they really support our district and support our community.
Community.
98% of the people, I think it's like 96, 97% of the people in the district are black.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a unique set of
Need to set up
situations and circumstances and conditions that that may not exist in other communities. There's
communities.
there's perspectives that we have that might not be held in other communities.
Communities.
Somebody may come into our community and not understand certain things, how things work, and think that hey, this is the, well, in our community, there's certain ways we
This is
operate.
certain right the way we operate, and it works for us, and that's how it is. And that's very true. I totally agree.
So to put it in a nutshell, I support the Black Lives Movement.
Hmm.
Let's make sure that we have a real agenda, because that's what I
Okay.
told you from before. I'm about agendas to keep people accountable. We can talk all we
Okay.
want to talk, but if we cannot measure the progress and keep people accountable, we're just having a conversation.
We're just having a conversation, and it's time to put an agenda. And with the agenda, there's a plan of action.
Absolutely, and you can measure it.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, one of the things that's important to me, and what I would love to see in my lifetime is, I would love to see the Black Wall Street again. Do you think we can actually create that again? Is that possible in my lifetime?
A lot of people say we'll never see a black president,
Sure. And we saw one
and we saw one.
for 8 years. So
I
that's
think
true.
that it is very possible for that to occur. I just think that the social cohesion that's needed,
Mhm.
it's difficult for us to work together as a people. It's difficult.
It
And we
is.
have to begin to break through that. And when we begin to break through that and work together as a people, we will be able to make a hell of a difference in our community and in our lives. And so Black Wall Street would most certainly um, be possible. I think that we have a lot more millionaires and billionaires. We have a
Okay.
lot more information. We can position ourselves for success. It's just whether we can get to the table, develop the strategy, organize the plan, and
Right.
execute the plan and make it happen. It can be capitalized. It's
Okay.
a matter of, we did it before. I mean,
So
we
we
did it
definitely.
before. We can
So
most
we
certainly
definitely
do
can
it
do it
again.
again. Okay. All right. I agree. Okay, I had a couple more questions. Because our time getting away from us. The conversation's going really good. I like it. I'm
Well,
even
it's
over here
politics.
taking
It's always
notes.
going to get away from us.
Yes, I'm over here taking notes. I'm like, okay. Now, one of the other things that come across is I'm sorry. I'll make sure I repeat myself. Oh, I think we as a community, we need to know what is red lining. What is financial redlining? I That term has been used a lot throughout the campaigning, different votings, but I don't think people really know what is financial redlining. Can you tell us what that is?
It's financial discrimination. It's a
Okay.
method by which to restrict the flow of capital to a group of people. Um, and that's redlining in housing, redlining in the financial markets, redlining in a lot of areas. They don't call it redlining now. That's the old term that they called it, and so that's the term that they use is redlining. But it's discrimination. It's being able to control and block people out from accessing whatever resource that is.
Which was they need.
Because
Okay.
redlining occurred in Long Island, New York. It was a man named Levitz. Now,
Hmm.
Levitz said, "I don't want no black people in my community, so we will not sell houses to any blacks." And this is how we will achieve that. We will make sure that they don't have access to capital, that these banks and lenders will not lend to them. If they come into our neighborhood, they will not lend to them. That realtors will not show them houses. So that's where that whole housing redlining and financial redlining came into play. Was
Came about.
Levitz made he put that into play.
Okay. Wow. All right. So the big question of the evening. Most people be like, why are you Republican? What were you say? They'd be like, how you black and Republican? That don't even make sense. They just can't see past you black and Republican. They don't see nothing else. What would you say to those people that just can't get past you black and
Well,
Republican?
it's not really much I can do about people to get past them. All I can do is educate them. All I can
Mm,
do is explain to people what I represent and what I stand for. I consider myself to be a Frederick Douglass Republican. Frederick Douglass was an abolitionist, and he fought for freedom of black people. He fought for education for black people, that black people could free their minds the way they think, to throw off the yoke of colonialism, slavery, and all kind of isms that go along with that. So I will continue along that line of that thinking, is to make sure that black people, that we are free thinkers, that we can think freely, that we're not burdened down by government regulations, that we're not strangled by these different systems that try to keep us oppressed, and for us to be able to, for us to have the conversation, to not even ask the question why you're a Republican,
Republican, right?
because you will know that regardless of whether I'm a Republican and you're a Democrat or an independent or libertarian or whatever your party idea may be, that how I view it is I have an affiliation with the Republican Party, but I have an obligation to my constituents. My obligation is greater than my affiliation.
Then your
It's,
affiliation.
it's just a shared ideas. I don't think that we should have a large government, because when you have large government, you have too much regulation. When you have too much regulation, you begin to strangle markets. You have other people that can control these people and control these policies. I'm looking to make
Policies.
sure that we can access. Here's my thing, and I said this to you before. Let me make my money and stop trying to take it.
Right.
So,
Okay.
we need to be more entrepreneurs. We
Noise.
need to control our own lives and our own capitals and our own communities. That's what I'm for.
That's
And
what you're for.
everybody else can control their communities and control their capital, control their ideas. But when we start controlling our ideas, we are considered what? They start telling us that we're anti-white, whatever. They're out in the front saying, we're not going to let you just do whatever you want to do to black
Want
people.
to do. Mm-hmm.
So now there's conversations about black men
Black men.
with guns.
Right.
We don't have a Second Amendment right, but the
Right.
idea of black men with guns have made America uncomfortable. It has made a lot of other communities uncomfortable, because the idea of black men being able to protect black people and black communities, the idea that
Right.
somebody can't come in and do what they want to do, that kind of shakes a lot of people.
That does. That shakes up a whole lot of things.
And
Um.
Frederick Douglass said, make sure you arm yourselves to protect yourselves.
Yes. Arm yourself to protect yourself. Arm yourself to protect yourself. Arm yourself to protect yourself. And I
So,
keep repeating that because I like how they say it, like to arm yourself to protect yourself, whether it's knowledge, weapons, whatever the case may be. Arm
absolutely.
yourself to protect yourself. One of our viewers put in the chat in the comment section as well. We have to learn to put our ego aside, which is so true. A lot of it when it comes into the politics is putting is our ego. We think one thing. What's the ego? That's just definition what it is. It's the ego. Putting that aside, and so we can actually come together and work together and build a better community, especially African American community. Something that you said already. Each community can come together, but us. Each community got its own standard way of operating and making money, keeping capital flowing into their neighborhoods. But us, we seem to just cannot come together to make it happen.
Well, and that's leadership.
Mm.
It's leadership. And what is the quality of our leadership? You know, it's interesting because when the whole Black Lives Movement started coming forward, and like this year, after a couple other shootings, a lot of black people were beginning to embrace their blackness again. You would see the red, gold, and green flags, the red, black, and green flags. You see people saying, "I'm black," and they're embracing that. Um, but we need to embrace that 365 days a year.
That year,
This isn't something that happens when a tragedy occurs. I'm now black. You know,
right?
we are black every day, and we know it because we experience the different things about being black every day.
I'm black every day,
So don't not embrace it. Embrace your blackness every day. You
every day.
know, And we have to become comfortable in that aspect and operating in that space. That listen, this is who we are. We might sometimes be loud. That's who we are. We talk
Oh,
loud.
yeah,
We enjoy ourselves.
wow.
We express ourselves away. Don't be afraid. We just having fun. But it goes back to the values, the attitudes, what makes up a community. Our communities are different. We're all different.
We are different. That's true. Now, we touched on a conversation in pre-production. I think is very relevant right about now, as far as with education. We had to talk about the black community has been told so long what to do, where to work, and how to live, all by someone else's standard. And do you really think that has really affected the way we move? Why we can't have more entrepreneurship? Why we can't think outside the box? So we're always looking at what it's quote unquote supposed to be versus what we can actually do on our own and build a better community. Like, for example, you take education. We have our own HBCUs, and then against PWIs and anything. But we have more people breaking our doors to get into get into PWI. But if we could have a lot of more people with those same skill set pushing the HBCUs to make it better, there's no reason if black people play football, we shouldn't have a top HBCU school with the amount of talent that black people have. So because now we're so conditioned that if you go here, you can get X, Y, Z, one, two, three, this will put you on this level of platform. Do you think that has a lot to do with why we can't grow in our community and why we can't stick together? That makes sense. I know I kind of threw it out
Yeah,
there.
we we're conditioned. We've been conditioned to think and act a certain way to benefit the general market. So just think about this. We say don't go to HSBCUs, black historically black colleges and universities, because when you go to these jobs, they don't really recognize these degrees as credible. You went to a black college. Do you really know what you know? Did they really give you an education? So at that point, we're steered to say, hey, you need to go to a white institution where the degree has value. Well, what's being said is you will not, here we go with the redlining because it's educational redlining.
Mm-hmm.
You will not have access to the kind of capital in terms of the salaries that you want or the jobs that you want if you go to these institutions. But if you go to these, you will. Well, what does that really mean? Because if we had our own industries, guess what? Those degrees would be valued there.
Valuable.
They would mean something there. And then the capital that we bring will move with us there as well. Wherever you go, you pay for your schooling.
Right.
So if I'm telling you, or the idea is, if you go to a black school, your degree will not have value. But if you go to a white institution, your degree has value. Your
Value.
economic dollars is going to the white institution.
Right. And it's taken
So
away
the
from the
black
community
institutions will not be able to keep up or develop because they don't have the funds to compete.
to compete.
So this is a lot of it is mental conditioning. We are mentally
Mental
conditioned to
condition.
move a certain way. This moves forward from slavery. It's a condition of the mind to condition you how to think, what to think, when to think it, why to think it. In fact, don't ask why to think it, just think it. Just
Think
do,
it. Just do it.
just do it. It's
Mm.
kind of like what Joe Biden said to people. And I'm not here to tell people who to vote for. What you vote who you want to vote for. But
Mm.
for him to use the term and say, if you don't vote for me, you're not black.
Black.
How dare he even attempt to use that?
That right.
Like he weaponizes the idea that you're not really black if you don't vote for me. Well, what does that mean? So
Gotcha.
again, this goes to the conditioning.
Conditioning
It
of
goes
the
to the social
mind.
conditioning, the political conditioning, the economic conditioning. It just conditions us to behave a certain way. And we got to begin to think outside the box and understand, listen, we don't have to be segregationists, but we can develop our own communities. We can
Communities.
make sure that our communities are protected, that they're thriving, that they have the jobs that are available for people to reduce our unemployment, because the unemployment rate in the black community is always like double or triple what the
True.
normal unemployment rate is.
That's true.
I mean, we have to, I guess, in a sense, get back to black.
Right.
And that is understanding that it doesn't mean that we're racist
Racist.
or we
Okay.
have hate in our heart for any particular people or
Right.
group. It means
It
that
just taking care of our own.
we have to take care of our own. We can't come to the table with anybody else if our backyard is not cut. If we don't have our stuff together, how are we gonna come to the table and
To the
really say, hey,
table.
we need to split this pie up evenly? Because right now
Right.
somebody's splitting the pie for us.
Exactly. And they eating the majority of that slice. They splitting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, we just have to we have to really kind of again, I always go back to this. It's an agenda. When you have a business, you have a blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
You have your articles of incorporation that direct you.
Right.
You have your bylaws that guide you. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to establish what is the direction that we're going to take our communities
Going to take community in and stick to that plan. Make it
and make
actually
sure that
work.
we have people that's going to do that and that we can hold accountable. And when they
Accountable.
stray, we get rid of them.
Okay. All right. Now, Erica, thanks for your statement. We need to empower our people to build self success and wealth versus building wealth for someone else. That is so true. So true. We definitely have gotten caught up in that mindset and definitely promote within. Definitely promote within. So that goes back to what you're saying. If we build our jobs, we had our jobs in our community. Like you said, those degrees for HBCU are valuable. We can use them in they're valuable anyway, but we can use them for our benefit in our community to build the community and have it to it benefits us and what we need to represent our lives.
Of course. And those students that go to school can come back and utilize their skills to help build their
Skills
community, to
to
help
help build the
strengthen
next
their
community.
communities. And they can
Hmm.
get something out of that. It's it's not going to change until we really kind of really understand what we're up against and what we need to do.
And what
Um,
we need to do.
and I think that that's critical. Is critical. And like I said, it goes back to leadership. So my slogan is expect more,
Hmm.
people over politics, question everything. We have to expect more than what
Expect
we've been
more
getting.
people, politics, question everything.
People
Okay.
people have to come first over politics. We have to question everything. We can't take anything for granted because somebody told us that.
What? Question everything. All right. So, in 2 minutes, tell me this. Educate us on the history of taxes. And the reason why I say that because we've been conditioned to believe that they're Republican, they don't want to pay their fair share of taxes. So can you actually educate us on tax? Because I think a lot of people don't realize the history of tax and how that process even came
Well, I'm not a tax professional, so I
about.
can't do anybody taxes at the end of the year. But but what I can tell you is the United States was a voluntary tax system at one point.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was people were like, I go out here, I make my money, I'm not giving it to nobody. That was the whole thing. I work for my money, the government does it, and you want to sit back and take my money and do what you want to do with it. So what happened was people weren't paying into the tax system. It was unbalanced. Some people was paying, most people was not paying. So they made it mandatory, and this is where your IRS come in and the Federal Reserve and everything else, that we have to collect revenue in order to make the government work. Well, to some degree, that's right. We can't have services if nobody wants to pay taxes. So how are we going to have fire departments to put out fires if nobody want to pay taxes? Well, if you want to go buy a garden hose large enough to put your own fires out, then so be it. But there are services that are needed which require a tax base. So we do need a tax system. It's just making sure that the tax system is fair, which I don't think that in a lot of ways it is. So we've gone from a voluntary system of taxation to an involuntary system of taxation, which is what we have now. People say, well, Republicans are greedy. They don't want to pay their fair share. Um, what is the idea of a fair share? What does that really mean when you get down to a fair share? And you have to ask yourself that question. And that means something to everybody that's different. So you
It's
got 50
different.
Cent that just said, listen, if Biden is elected, I'm moving out of New York because my tax is going to go up too high. I don't want it. Now, if 50 Cent was back on the block in Jamaica, Queens, he wouldn't care whether Joe Biden got in because he doesn't. It's not affecting him that way.
It's not affecting him that way.
A lot of times our mindset changes on the level of how big our pockets are.
Pockets are very true.
So
Very true.
I can't think like somebody that's unemployed if I'm making $1 million a year.
Yeah.
If I'm making $10 million a year, I can't think like somebody that's making $1 million because our tax strategies are different, you
Right.
know. And so the idea is always and has been, I earn my money. I don't want the government to take my money. And the
Money.
same people that are saying that we have an unfair tax system are the same people that have created the unfair tax system and who also benefit from the unfair
For the
tax system.
unfair tax system.
But they point the finger at somebody else because they say, well, you make more money and you don't pay as much taxes, or you have a better strategy than me, so I'm going to point the finger at you.
It's true.
So the question
That's
is,
true.
how much do you want to pay? If you want to
Mm.
say, "Hey, I'll pay 50% of my wealth," that's your right. But I
Right.
may not feel that same way. And
Right.
if I have a CPA that can help me avoid or can help me maximize the benefit of my expenditures for my business and for the way I operate, I want to benefit from that.
From that.
If I run a business, I have to think about my profits and my losses. If I go out and
Correct.
buy a piece of equipment, that a piece of equipment costs a particular dollar amount. I want to
Right.
be able to depreciate that over time and get a benefit from that because I'm using that to create jobs, to create
Jobs and
revenue.
business.
It's not
Hmm.
directly benefiting me directly, but I'm indirectly benefiting from it because I get a profit from my business.
Business.
So I think the other part is we have to begin to understand how the game is played, how the system works, and be able to use it to our benefit.
Benefit. Okay. Great answer. Great answer.
PPP loans.
Yeah,
Most
people.
black
Oh,
businesses haven't received the benefit from it. Why? Because we're not organized properly.
nice
A
property.
lot of us are not incorporated. A lot of us are not operating with bank accounts. A lot of us are not keeping track with certain expenditures and things like that. So when it comes down to it, we get blocked out because somebody says, "Hey, your structure is not in place, so we're not going to
Place.
fund you." I don't think that that should be the end all because there are ways to be able to show that you've been operating a business. When we operate businesses, guess what we go in? We say write everything off, and we write everything off, but it doesn't show that we're profitable.
Right. It
So
just
when
show
you go
all
to,
the loss.
it shows a
And you
loss.
try to
So
go
you're
get
trying to go
stuff
get a loan for your business, and they say, well, you just got losses. How do where's your revenue?
with revenue. Yep. When they looking at adjusted gross income.
So we
That is
gotta
true.
we have to begin to understand how to operate at each level. And I'm not
Level.
saying that once you make a certain level, you need to become a Republican. You can be whoever you can believe in and value whatever you value.
Right.
Those are your political beliefs. But your economic strategy, you should understand that.
Understand that. All right, state senator. One final, well, the last final question of the evening.
Okay, all right.
What are ways that we, the constituents, can hold our senators and state representatives accountable?
By electing me.
All right.
No, I'm gonna that that's a that's that I say that, and I say it seriously, but I also say it in terms of I'm looking to establish a new protocol in terms of how politicians in our community operate. And
Okay.
that is to say that we need to operate from an agenda based perspective, that we need to be able to deliver to our constituents an agenda to say, hey, going in, this is my plan. You know that I have a working plan. If people go to my website, which is benjaminforsenate.org, you can go
Mhm.
under the agenda and you can see what it is that I'm talking about.
Wow.
And while that's a starting point, when I get to my constituents, I'm saying, hey, this is the starting point here. Let's have a conversation about the issues so I know what legislation that I'm going to write. And then we come up with, I'm going to send you because I'm communicating with you over time that
Mhm.
this is the agenda and this is how it's going to be approached. So you understand at the end of 24 months, you can come back to me and say, hey, Ben, you said you was going to do A, B, C, and D. You hadn't done none of that. What are you doing?
Right. No, you tripping.
We got to be able to have the conversation of accountability. You can't just be
Gotcha.
a seat holder. You have to be a representative.
Gotcha. I okay. That's all of my questions. You've done an excellent job educating me, educating our viewers. I love the comments that's in the section. They had great questions. Tell us, how can they find you?
They can find me by going to benjaminforsenate.org. On the
Okay.
website, you'll have my agenda. There's a video. I have a video. You can watch the video. It expresses some of the things that are important to me and some of the topics that I've discussed with people and that they've expressed to me what's important to them. Also, you can go on the website and it just kind of gives you an idea of who I am, what I
Okay.
represent. Also through there, if somebody wants to send me an email, they can send it to benjaminsenate at gmail.com. And that's the number four. So it's Benjamin, the number four, Senate at gmail.com. They can also send me an email there and reach me out through that way. Also on the website, there's a contact form. They can shoot a contact through there. Any suggestions if they have any friends and family members that live in District 44 and Clayton or DeKalb, they can give them and share the information with them and let them know they have a viable option. You don't
Okay.
just have to vote by party and say, I'm just going to vote this way because they told me to vote this way. Um, Exercise your option.
Since-
Know what your option is. And we spoke about this and we didn't talk about it, but I said this. What is the value of your vote? We have to begin
Oh
to look at it and
yes.
treat it like it's currency. If your vote
Yes.
was currency, what would it be worth and how would you invest it?
Hmm. Say that again. Say that again for the people in the back.
So it's if your vote was currency, how much would it be worth and how would you invest it? If you knew that you wasn't getting a return somewhere, would you keep investing it there? Would you take a risk and say, let me take a risk in this market and see how it works for me? Hey, it's 24 months. I take a chance. I see where it goes.
Hmm. And if you don't like it, you
And if
can
you don't get the return that you want, you can
warn.
always go back to the market where you lost that anyway, because you're still getting a diminished return that you can just say, hey, I voted over here. My vote don't really count, but I want to do something anyway. I want to
Got you.
change the way it's done. And in our
Okay.
community, like I said, we don't really, we're not power players when it comes to politics.
Politics. No, we're not power players. And it mainly because of lack of education,
We
the
can do
lack
it.
of knowledge of it. Yes,
We
we
can do
definitely
it.
can do it. Oh
We're
yeah,
gonna
we
do
definitely
it.
can do
We're
it.
gonna do it. We're gonna do
We,
it. The
we
change,
definitely can do
change is in the tide, and we just have to continue to push that change. But keep an eye on the people that we're electing.
it. And also just to piggyback off of something, I want to push, remember, people, we can do it, we can fight for whatever. Where we also need to make sure when we're fighting, we have that agenda in place. I think that's been the missing piece for a
Absolutely.
long time. We're not having the agenda in place. So when we grab their attention, let's make sure they're ready to listen. We only have a short window when we have their attention. Let's listen. Speak our agenda, believe in the agenda, push the agenda, and
Hold them
you know,
accountable.
hold them accountable. That's what I was going to hold them accountable. So definitely, if we can do that, we can definitely see change. And it doesn't matter what party you represent, Democrat, Republican. It all has an agenda. Push it, believe in it, and hold them accountable. Because when you hold people accountable, that's when you see action. When there's no action, you replace with someone who can be held accountable. So again, thank you, State Senator Mr. Benjamin Brooks. Oh my goodness. It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure.
Brandon, I appreciate this time. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Your listeners, thank them for their time, for listening and spending the time with us. I really appreciate them. No matter who you vote for, if you live in a district and you want to vote for me, it would be a vote for change in something very different. If you decide to vote for the incumbent candidate, that is also your choice. Just be educated about, what you're doing and know what you're going to get on the other side of that ballot.
On that ballot. Yes. Fans, fans, that has been our show for this evening. Thank you for watching another episode of Life with Brandon. Today's topic was how do our community view politics and what's the purpose and what purpose does it serve us in the community? Well, what purpose does it serve us? The community is my part. I've enjoyed the knowledge that I've gained. I've enjoyed. I've been a sponge. I didn't have too many questions. It was more of a listening session for me. I've been very well informed on ideas of how things work. I definitely not ready to run as a candidate position right now, but I definitely know a better choice of when I'm going through the ballot. What to look for. What to pay attention to, understand and ask myself these questions. How do they represent me? Does this really benefit me or not? Not just feel like I just have to go with a particular candidate just because. Just being properly informed and properly educated on the options that are out there. Thank you again so much. Want to thank Art Network for hosting us every week at Atlanta Radio Theater. Remember, you all like, subscribe. We go live every Wednesday on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitch. Until next Wednesday, you all be blessed. Remember, go and vote. November 3rd, go vote. Also, remember, time goes back this Saturday night. So
Not the
set your
time
clock
going
pad.
back.
Yeah. That time is on fall back. Just remember that time fall back. Go vote. Early vote. Go early vote. You can still early vote. Go and early vote. If not, please go on Tuesday the 3rd. Everyone needs to cast their vote. To next week. You all be safe. If you all are going to participate in the trick or treat, be careful out there. COVID's still real. Despite what they say. Still mask up.
Really.
Be safe. And remember, November is Thanksgiving month. So let's all go in with a thankful heart and think about what we're grateful. I believe 2020 has taught us, if anything, 2020 should have taught you to be grateful. We've seen a number of people come and go. We've seen things change on a monthly basis. We've seen things go from good, great, bad to worse. So just learning to be thankful with what it is and how it is, and learning to do better. You know, you got to be grateful in order to grow. And I think some people miss that. You got to be grateful, like, okay, I'm grateful for this, but okay, how can I grow from this? We show have gratitude because I think a lot of people miss the part of having gratitude. You don't have to stay there, but have gratitude. Okay, I'm grateful for this to work from now, but how can I move to the next level? How can I educate? How can I grow? And one thing that I've learned personally through life, I try to take 15 minutes out of the day. It's normally the nighttime just to read up on anything. It could be something with dealing with talk show, you know, working with payroll software that I work with, something just to educate my mind and something I'm doing to keep my mind sharp, to keep my mindset going. So take a little time out. You'd be surprised. 15 minutes turn into 30, 30 turn into an hour. Next thing you know, you read the whole book and can't go to sleep. I was not a reader in school, but I'm learning to read. Learn to read, and it's knowledge. So, and let's educate ourselves. And how did you say arm yourself? You said, well, you said a point that we got to learn to arm ourselves, meaning when it's knowledge,
That's
protection,
what it is.
gun,
You gotta arm yourself.
you got to
You
arm
know?
yourself. And knowledge is definitely a strong way of arming ourselves. So until next week, you all be blessed. Thank you again, Benjamin Brooks, for joining us. You all remember, go vote November 3rd. Have a wonderful week. Enjoy your weekend. Bye bye.